Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. David Orman, and this is Dr. Orman's LifeCast podcast from here in central sunny Florida, hot sunny Florida. Today is July 15th, Monday, and today's topic is respect, particularly respect for time and how it involves the liver. About 20-ish, 25 years ago, I decided and made a commitment to start the day with a combination of either a breathing method, Tai Chi, Qigong, or Bagua. Those are what's known as internal arts. And basically what they do is move the energy from head to toe, side to side, front to back. And after a nice peaceful rest, the body's energy has a tendency to settle. And so by getting literally physical movement as well as energy and breath movement, you get all of that energy moving and moving in the direction it should be. So I say direction it should be, and that may sound like a peculiar phrase, but when there is pain, for example, when there's pain in the knees, that means the energy is not moving in that area and it should be moving upward. Or if a person has a headache and it's stuck in this area, the energy needs to be moving, particularly moving downward. And when that doesn't occur, we get anything and everything, literally A to Z, from pains, depression, case of the blues, migraines, confused thoughts. We can be here an hour and a half and cover maybe 1% of the issues. So starting the day with some type of movement like that, particularly what I would call precision movement. And in the upcoming weeks, I will be recording a class that will be available for purchase on my website, davidorman.com, which will cover things like this. One of the what I'd call sore spots, or yeah, sore spots will work, that I often have is the idea of respect. I don't respond particularly well when people are very disrespectful. And it seems like ever since the global craziness, that the level of respect worldwide, I would say, has taken a kind of a swan dive downward. You see it driving, you see it communicating. I've seen it in a couple of instances, driving in particular. I had a patient who once said that individuals are using their vehicles as weapons, and I couldn't agree with them more. I've had instances, for example, when I was teaching a class and conversations would break out in the middle of what I was saying. Incredibly disrespectful. You're stealing people's time. You go to the gym, even virtually any gym, and there are times you have to wait for a particular machine for 20 minutes, not because somebody's using it, but because they're on their phone for 18 of those 20 minutes. And what they're doing is taking time. They're free to waste their own time, but then when they start to have an impact on somebody else's time, that's when it becomes a major problem. And why is this occurring? Well, viruses and pathogens in general have a tendency to accumulate in the liver. And when the liver has those viruses or has those pathogens in our model of medicine, heat arises. And when heat arises, it has a tendency to go upward and create things such as anger, frustration, or obsessive thinking. The obsessive thinking occurs in particular when the liver, that heat in the liver also takes the energy away from the spleen, and the spleen gets weak. And you know the spleen is weak when a person has a tendency to sing instead of talk. And when you ask them a question, how are you doing today? You get a 45-minute monologue. That's what spleen weakness is. And what has occurred, in my opinion, because of the combination of pathogens, but the lockdown aspect of it, where people were unable, or yes, I guess unable to move, literally to move, it created inertia where the body at rest is staying at rest. And so many people who were moving, going for walks, going to the gym, going to events, etc., now don't do it, or don't do it as much. And so you have that massive stagnation and that buildup of more and more and more heat in the system. And when that occurs, That imbalance in the liver leads to feelings of resentment, anger, frustration, and can certainly manifest as disrespect toward another person or often toward themselves. And you ask a person, didn't you realize that there were others in the room? And there's like a lack of awareness. And again, you could point to the liver as being the main cause of it. Well, fortunately, there are many things that can be done in terms of strengthening the liver and getting that liver moving, which will then clear the heat. Diet, of course, is at or near the top of the list. Anything that is sour in flavor or green in color will be a huge help. So all of your dark green leafy vegetables, um, broccoli would be considered the star of the show, or lemon is a real close one. Any and every type of exercise. And one of the questions I often get is, what is the best exercise? And my answer is, what do you love doing? Well, I love running. That's the best exercise. But I love going to the gym. That's the best exercise. But I love, yoga. That's the best exercise. So in other words, the thing that you're going to do consistently. And the star of the show here is the word consistency, consistently and consistency. The doing I'm going to run, and I run 10 miles on a Monday and then nothing for a month. Not so good. It's that consistent day after day after day, maybe taking a day or two off. But it is the repetition and the building of the habit that is the key. So when the body starts to move, the energy within the liver starts to move. And there are a variety of herbs as well. Part of the other issue is that our environment is unusually toxic, both the air, the food, things along those lines, and the liver is responsible for clearing out those toxins. And what happens there are two phases to the liver. Phase one is to gather what's called xenotoxins, which are the toxins within inside the body, and make them more water soluble, and then passes it on to phase two, which then gets rid of the toxins. The problem is often phase one does not talk to phase two properly, and as a result, it has a tendency to accumulate in phase one. When it makes it more water soluble, it also makes it more toxic. So you have toxins, plural, that are now more toxic. And there is a mineral called manganese. Manganese. It is a trace mineral. You use it in small amounts, but that will be a huge help in allowing the liver, the system, for phase one to talk to phase two. There is also an herb called silymarin, which is fantastic for cleaning out the liver. Now, it's kind of strong, and for people who have a sensitive system, the herb dandelion root would be much more efficient. It will take a little bit longer, but it will do the job just as well. So if your system, I can handle anything, or I'm 6'1" and 215 pounds, so taking something like silymarin, no problem. But my wife is 5'5", 120 pounds, so she goes with the dandelion. We eventually get to the same spot, but like I said, it just takes a little bit longer. And in the process of toxins that have a tendency to accumulate and result in behavior that is out of character, such as being disrespectful. When that occurs, the emotions of anger, frustration, or depression typically arise. So somebody will say, I feel so depressed, I'm this, I'm that. And there's nothing really wrong in terms of, I didn't have a death in the family or a loss of a job or anything like that. So there's no external trigger which would account for it. You can guarantee that the liver, lack of movement within the liver, is what's causing the problem. When a person has a difficulty dealing with anger, their anger is explosive, or when they constantly express frustration. I want to be doing this, but I can't. And you could see the tightness building up. There is an absolutely grade A phenomenal herb called bupleurum. Bupleurum. It is, though it has physiological benefits, its main purpose is psychological slash emotional, and that helps to open up the liver and release all of those particular emotions. Now, it can be quite a strong, it is a strong herb, and you can have a quite a strong reaction to it. It is not uncommon for people to cry rather intensely and to have a strong reaction. And even though it is very difficult at the time, it hurts. You know, you begin to, it's like a tsunami being released. When that time period is over, I could guarantee you will feel significantly better. You may or may not have all of the answers, but you will begin your path to finding them. And the emotions, that energy which was blocking that path is now not only released, but is moving, and you are moving with it. So it's as if you were able to put a raft in the river or in the stream and go with the flow, so to speak. And when that occurs, a person's behavior starts to be what I would call on a higher level. You become aware of others. You become more sensitive to, you know, when another person, when they're having a bit of a go, you know, you walk up to them and say, you know, is there anything I could do? You don't seem like yourself. Or when somebody's being ignored, you give them time, because at the end of the day, people just want to be acknowledged. Everyone to some degree is in pain, and when you can alleviate the pain of another, even if it's just for 5 minutes, you know, it may be just 5 minutes to you, but it may be a life-changing experience to them. So that has been my experience and that has been what I would call life-changing. So take your time, make sure your liver is healthy, make sure that you're eating things in summer here and eating things that are green in nature and sour. Look at a specific herb, the ones that I mentioned, and movement, any type of movement. Your favorite movement, do it consistently. You don't have to go overboard, but do it consistently. If you have any other questions or would like a greater explanation or would like to work one-on-one with me, please let me know. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.